Hey, episode 27. I'm Mike Milan, and that's Blaine Birch, and you're listening to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. So, Blaine, what's up, man?
Oh, not too much, Mike. I'm excited to dive into this topic today, and always fun to just sit and chat business with you and see where everything goes. So yeah, excited.
Well, today's funny, right? It's funny because we're going to be talking about work-life balance and whether or not you have one as a small business owner, and what it's like, right? Because think about this. This is part of, I don't know if this is work or if it's life. This podcast.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, but it feels more life to me than work, which is awesome because I actually look forward to this every single week, and it feels different than the rest of my week, which is like every single minute of every day seems to be slammed with something. And here we can just kind of sit back, relax, and BS about business.
And believe it or not, this is our last virtual beer before we meet in person.
Yes. Like we're talking 2 days, 2 days. Yeah.
2 days, right? So I'll be there. I'll be standing in your front yard, like going, "Can I park here?"
Yeah, just park in the street so we can get out. That's it.
There you go. So, all right. So we're going to be talking about work-life balance, and but first, hey, what are you drinking this week?
Okay, so this week, new Anthem, cool can new Anthem Permanent Crease India Pale Ale, and new Anthem is from Wilmington, North Carolina. But I think the important part this week is still a little heavy, but it's 7.7%. I noticed last week, and I told you this on an email. I noticed last week, I stupidly had like a 12% or 11% stout. I think I got through it in the first like half an hour and found out just cutting and editing the very end of our podcast that I was rambling incessantly. And I'm like, probably not the best to do 12, or if I do 12%, sip it. Don't like pound it back in 30 minutes. So I thought, well, this week I'll try something that's actually not even that light, but I'll try something lighter and stay on target. This week, just tell me, just go, dude, you're rambling. Like, okay, the beer's getting to my head.
I don't know. Maybe I was enjoying it.
Maybe you were, but for the first time ever, I literally cut some stuff out because I'm like, this is just like going on forever. It's going nowhere. So.
See, now you're breaking form. We said in the very beginning this is going to be raw, unedited. We're just going to do it, and there you are telling everybody that listens to us, you just cut some parts out.
I cut some part out, but you know what? All I can say is it was just repetitive. So you didn't miss anything.
So you still got it. You just didn't get it twice.
You didn't get it twice because my brain was in like just going in a circle, in a really slow circle. So yeah, we're hopefully be in better shape by the end of this episode. What do you got going today?
Well, first of all, I love the name of that beer. It's a Permanent Crease, right? And so I think everybody on the call knows I live in Texas. And if you know anything about the Cowboys in Texas, they iron their jeans, right? They iron their jeans. And I don't have time.
I didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
But you can tell the guys that do, because even if they're a little worn in, you can see the permanent crease, right? There's a permanent crease there. And and as a matter of fact, when I was in the military, I actually tailored a couple of my uniforms. Hey, if you're listening to this and you're military, you know that's not reg. So don't be calling me up and saying that I was out of reg and all that, but it looked darn cool, man. I put these little darts, these seams, permanent creases in the back of my BDU blouse, and man, it looks sharp. But somebody's going to call me out saying, you can't do that. That's unauthorized alteration.
Yeah, I don't think I'd last very long. I'd never make it a day in the military because that's not allowed. I'm like, I don't do well with rules. Just like that would not work with me at all.
They have a ton of rules, man. They've got a ton of rules there. So, all right. So I stepped out of Texas in my selection today. Stepped out of Texas, but I've been on this kind of bourbon kick. But I found this brewery. It's called the Lexington Brewery Company, or it's Brewing and Distillery. And what's kind of cool about the Lexington Brewing Company is that the name and the building's been around since the 1890s, and kind of during Prohibition, it kind of went, it went down, and then over the next couple of decades, kind of back and forth, they would open and close. Well, some guys bought it and revived it, right? So it's kind of
Nice.
the original location, original name, and they're doing both distilling. I think whiskeys, and they might do vodka. They'll hold me to that, but I know there's at least a whiskey and bourbon there, and beer, right? So they have a whole line of beers, and it's all kind of around their whiskeys. But this one is a Kentucky vanilla barrel cream, right? It's a cream ale. So I'm like going, man, I don't know what it was, but it sounded really cool. It's got the horse head and reminds me of like the Kentucky Derby. So it's
nice.
I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it on this one. So cheers to you.
Cheers, man. You haven't tried it yet then?
I haven't tried it yet. No. And you know what? I do that on purpose for these shows, right? I'll buy something I've never tasted before, and my first taste is always on the show. See, this was my first taste today. I'll be honest with you. Usually I can't even make the start of the show and I have to like take a little sip. So the first taste probably 5 minutes before the show. Well, I'll let you all.
This is delicious. This is good.
Sometimes I'll start off with something like this while I'm waiting for us to start, and then I move to,
move to the special one.
The other one. Yeah, there you go. So nice. So anyway, vanilla cream. Let me taste this. See how it goes. Oh, happy? Like a vanilla, that vanilla cream soda. It tastes, I mean, it's real heavy, robust vanilla. So if you like a vanilla cream anything, man, try it. You should get one of those. Yeah. Really good.
Good stuff.
Really good. Yeah. So, okay. Hey, so work-life balance. And I'll tell you what, here's what I think of, right? Because somebody just cut me off real quick. But here's what I think of. When that happens, I need to put on do not disturb.
Oh yeah, that's a good call.
Somebody just goofed in on me. We'll probably have to edit again. Don't edit it, because that way people can see we didn't edit.
We'll just keep going. It's just a little bit of dead air. I'll just fill it with me slurping back some beer.
Yeah, there you go. So so anyway, I feel like it's like jargon, right? And I'm always opposed to corporate jargon, like going, when the words, the buzzwords people use, and you're going, I hate it when people say that. And work-life balance seems like that to me as well. Like totally it's a myth. Like, I don't.
It's SEO juice. That term, work-life balance, it's SEO juice.
Yeah, right. So because think about it. I guess the way you look at it, if you go all the way back to my childhood, it was my parents went to work during the day and they came home and they was at home at night, and that was their life, right? Because they just had jobs. They punched a clock. My dad was a truck driver. My mom was a nurse. So they'd go in, they'd do their work, and they come home and they'd be family. And there was no other work interference outside of the time they were at their job.
Yeah.
But that's where it's different for us. For maybe not our employees, but for us, it's a little different, because I tend to sometimes carry my job with me longer than the workday.
Oh, yeah, it's almost impossible not to. And that's the challenge is there's a break between actually working way too many hours, or you're just kind of carrying it with you, and you're it's hard to turn the brain off, because as an entrepreneur, I'm not sure it ever really goes away. It's always creeping up in the back of your mind, but it's really important to try and have a break, right? It's critical.
Yeah, I would think so, because you get focused, and I always think multitasking is a myth too, right? I don't think you can really truly do 2 or 3 things at once. I think you do one, then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one. You might be hopping in and out. I don't call that multitasking, though. I think those people that try to do multitasking, I think you usually let something kind of just go half-assed.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it feels efficient, but it's probably the most inefficient way to do anything.
Yeah, well, especially like if you're trying to do planning, like at our stage or hierarchy structure, it's more planning, and it's more strategic thinking, and it's more results, performance, adjustments, right? You're making adjustments to what you see. Yeah. And I don't know that, you can do all of those things at once. I think you gather information, you make some decisions, then you make a plan, then execute the plan. I don't call that multitasking.
No, it's the stuff where you feel like you're multitasking is when I'm working in the required stuff, the communication, the emails, the forms, the contracts, that you gotta wedge in while you're doing all this other stuff. And it's stuff that I think is better served grouped together. Like, dedicate some time to do the tactical stuff, get it done, give yourself some time for the strategic, because if you bounce back and forth, and sometimes it's inevitable, but bouncing back and forth, I think it feels to me like when they say it's multitasking, it feels like you have 3 cars and you want to drive them, half a mile. And instead of like just drive half a mile and come back at the other one, it's you drive and then you stop and then you hop out and then you run to the other one, you start that one, and then you drive a little bit and you slam on the brakes and you turn it off and you run to the other one. And it's like, there's no way that's more efficient with all the stop, start, open, close, running from car to car. There's no way it's going to be as efficient as like, just go and get this done and then start job 2.
Well, and what's funny is that I don't know if this happens to you. Let me talk about a little bit my life, right? So, like, I'll say every other weekend, or once or twice a month, we have our in-laws over and we play cards. But it's the same 3. We play 3 games. It's the same 3 games in the same order every single time, right? We play rummy first, then we play spades, then we play hearts. Right. So think about that, right? We're just changing games. What I didn't realize is how difficult it is to change your way of thinking just from hand to hand. When we get done with rummy, now I got to think about how to play a spades hand. Then I got to get done with spades. Then I got to think about how to play a hearts hand. Right. And we even have to remind each other what the rules are. And we've done this for several years. Right? Like, what was the rules again? So, but what I'm saying is, if we can't remember, the rules and the strategies to a game just from hand to hand, something we've done routine, how can you jump in and out of new tasks all day long?
Yeah. And I think the overriding thing, that the reason that this is so important is, if you're jumping from task to task and being highly inefficient and you're exhausting your brain because you're restarting up and trying to figure out where you're at every time, your days get longer and longer and longer. And it's hard to make the break and give your mind the rest, right?
Yeah.
That they say, like, that the breaking, the work life, actually doing life, right, is hard if you've exhausted yourself.
Yeah, well, and what's funny is that over at Finnegraph, we had it was an unlimited vacation policy. You could take as much time off as you wanted. You just had to have it approved, and you had to have your other work done. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. Or, approved and get your work done, or have a plan to get it done on time. And what we found out is that people weren't taking vacation. Right. Yeah. It's like they took less vacation when they could have all that they wanted. They took less. Yeah. So then we had to flip it, because we were getting people burning out that would stay there until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and just be terrible in meetings the next day if required stuff that we needed them for, or kind of lose focus. And what I learned about software developers, and you've seen them, they put the headphones on, they kind of go into a tunnel and into their computer screen.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that if you interrupt somebody when they're kind of in headphones mode, it takes them 20 minutes to just refocus on what they were thinking of. There's so much detail and so much, linear thinking about structure that when they get distracted, you lose 20 minutes of productivity of them just trying to figure out, okay, what was it again? And I know that. I mean, just from writing the book, if I stepped away from the desk, coming back, I had to go, okay, what was I thinking about?
Oh yeah.
How did I want this to go?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I know going back 20 years or 15 years ago, there was a time where I was doing, like, I had a business, full-time staff, partner, everything. Plus I was doing my master's degree and I was teaching a few courses at the university, because and it is kind of like, well, I'm over there anyway, I'll teach some courses, right? Mm-hmm. Way too much. Like, absolutely. You don't realize at the time, because you're running on adrenaline for years, right? And every second of every day and evening seems to be taken up. And like you said, getting started and stopped, like, I'd do a lecture, and then the class would have, the 15-minute break, and that 15-minute break was me on my phone putting out fires for the 15 minutes because I've been out of the office for an hour and a half or whatever, right? And but what I learned from that was it's really, and you can only do that for a very short time, and then it starts to drag you down. You become less and less efficient, and pretty soon you might be working 70-hour work weeks, but productively you're doing probably 30 hours worth of work because you just can't. Your brain can't function on that. And that was a lesson that I took to heart and switched over and said, no, I'm going to make sure I have those defined breaks and doing things that are like force myself into non-work things. And it took years to build that discipline. But I think what's happened is then when I start a day now, every minute is productive. And when I get to the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. But I'm done. I shut the door. And most of the time I don't have to do anything, or I don't do anything in the evening or weekend. There's always some, right? There's always a little bit, but I have a pretty good break from that. And what that's done is made me hyper effective, where I feel like I'm sprinting the entire day and getting stuff done.
Okay, so I think we agree that when we think work-life balance, really what we're trying to do is give ourselves a break, right? Because you can push yourself so hard that you become even less of a good person to your friends and family, right? Oh, yeah. You're just not fun to be around. Your mind's somewhere else. I mean, I had a friend just recently where even trying to talk to him, I couldn't get his attention. Right. It was always in the phone. It was always, and it was like I was having to repeat things. We were backtracking, and it was a really unpleasant conversation. And I'd been that guy. I've been that guy where around my family dinner table, we got a phone out. We go out to dinner. I got a phone out. I don't want to do that anymore. Right. No. So I look at it as I'm turning off. I might check on it once or twice before I go to bed just to make sure that there's nothing I missed.
Yeah.
For the most part, I'm turning off now during family time.
Yeah. And I think like I would expect you to agree with me that I feel like doing that has made me much more effective during my business day and a much more effective in my family life. It's made it the balance has sort of come into place. And it doesn't mean there's no stress and anxiety and everything like that with being an entrepreneur, but I think you deal with it better. And like I know I don't remember who I was talking with, a friend of mine that was an entrepreneur not too long ago, and I remember saying like being an entrepreneur, they always say it's a marathon, not a sprint. But like, it's not a marathon. It's like grabbing a backpack and going around the world. Like a marathon is short compared to what an entrepreneur has to do. An entrepreneur is at this for years, and it is a slog. And when you look at it that way and you go like, no, you're going to be like hiking straight up a mountain for years. That's when you realize, yeah, you got to take care of yourself. You have to be on for your team and you have to be effective during the day. And in order to do that, you have to have a break and a mental break and a balance or whatever. Your brain just can't be on the business 24 hours a day. And it's hard. You have to build that discipline. It's not an easy thing to start.
Well, I totally agree. And I'll tell you, I think my first relationship was ruined by my passion for small business, right? It was just like I was trying to build a business. I was focused on it all the time. I was so distant from my partner. I was so distant from my kids. I'm sure that they felt neglected, and I'm sure that's what contributed to it. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So, I'm changing my philosophy. I changed the way I work. Now you would have thought now that COVID, when we all kind of had to go work at our houses, that it would have been easier to maintain. Did you find it easier or harder to separate work and life?
My last business was we had an office and, all the rest. Right. And after I sold that business and started, kind of the next venture and eventually started Dry Run, I purposely started as a remote business. So I kind of went through those battles years ago because by the time COVID hit, it's like, yeah, we had a business running. We have an entire team across the country and we had everything dialed in. And I was talking with someone today and I said, it was actually, the nice thing was people caught up to us. So now that we wanted to be on Zoom with them, they were all in, where it was a little more challenging before. Mm-hmm. But I went through those same battles just a few years earlier. It took some very conscious decision to be able to go, I'm going to close my office door and I'm not going in. And, I bet you for the first few months, it was like, it's like getting weaned off of you're addicted. Like it's really hard to, you close the office door and 5 minutes later I'm back in checking email but over time I did bring in a discipline and break that habit. And now I close the door, and it depends what time it is during the day, sometimes later, sometimes not, but I close the door and the vast majority of the time I can keep that break. Now, what I will say is my wife and I go for walks every night and, nice relaxing walk. And then when I really think about it, I'm like, yeah, I probably talk business the entire freaking walk. I just, then I think about it, go, yeah, no, that's breaking my own rule, just burning it.
That's right.
But at least I'm not in here doing the work, I guess. I don't know.
Well, all right. So the mistake I made early on was I made a home office that was awesome to be in. It had every creature comfort I wanted. It was comfortable. It was nice. I loved just sitting there. I could get so much done. Yeah. This one I designed differently. I'm like going, I just want stark, the bare bones. Or I'm like going, I'd rather do that out there, right? I'd rather go out and get something to drink and already have something in here in a refrigerator or something like that. I didn't build a bathroom close, so I have to leave to go do that. So, I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where I tried to put fewer creature comforts in here because I come in and focus on a task and then leave. I don't want to be in here.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I know, my office in Edmonton is in, you've probably seen it. It's in our basement, we have a pool table and bikes and shit like that. But it was, I had a little tiny office upstairs in one of our spare rooms for the longest time. And then my wife's just she just walk in and go, why are you in this room? Which is probably about this size, little tiny room like this. Yep. And says, why don't you use the one downstairs? Got all these nice giant windows and you're looking out in the yard. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But I already had the discipline to walk away and to make sure I stay away from it. And the only time is as we're walking out the door in the basement with our bikes to go on a ride, I have to walk kind of through our office because it's in that sort of almost like a little atrium. Yeah. And I know every time we do that, I just I can see my gaze just looking at the computer. That's stuff going on there, but it's a couple seconds and then I can get past it and get out the door. But it's true. It helps to have a place where you can close it off and it's just an office. I think that's a really good idea that you said, it's not, there isn't sort of fun stuff in there. Just, you got to be able to shut it off and leave it. Right.
Yeah. Now I do have a TV that I turn on, but it's I think I turn it on because I'm lonely. I don't even listen to it. It just kind of, I'll have some noise in the background, or even right now it's kind of playing, but it's the room, because it's stark. It feels kind of lonely and bare. I'm like, oh, well, at least there's the TV kind of moving around there.
Well, I'm on either Zoom or Slack is going all day. So, but there's these little breaks sometimes where I actually can go okay, I can do stuff and I don't have to talk with someone while I'm doing it. And so then I'll have pop on a record and it's just, it's instantly relaxing. So one thing I have in here is a record player. And if I'm not on Spotify, I'm going to throw this record on and it's just, it helps me focus and dial in. That's the only, my one sort of creature comfort in here. Although I guess I got my guitar in here, but I think I should move it out of here because once I close the door at the end of the day, I don't want to come back in, but I don't have time during the day to ever pick it up. So this is in the wrong room. I'll have to move that to a different room.
I bet if you go back to the last 10 videos, that guitar's been in the same position. Yeah, same doesn't move. I think it's a decoration, not an instrument.
Yeah, that's That's the same here. I am, that's the absolute wrong place to have that. But it's, I really, like, I do want to share with people how it took a lot of discipline. Because when I hear entrepreneurs now, like years ago, it's like, I do 70 hours a week. Oh, wow, that's 2 more than I do or whatever. And now I hear an entrepreneur say that, and I just was like, I just feel like saying, no, don't do it, because you can't sustain that long enough. And now that I've got the discipline built in, and trust me, the thing is that because I've got that discipline and I have just a regular work day, every second is sprinting and efficient. Yeah. And then I can walk away. And it is a better way to live. And it's also, I think, the only way to be effective over the long haul.
Yeah. All right. So you've leaned into the word discipline, and I always kind of characterize that as routine. Is that what you mean? Like, here's what I do, right? My routine.
Well, it's a discipline to maintain a routine. It's a discipline to close the door and not sneak back in. And you do it long enough, and suddenly it's like, now you've made the norm. Because when you're in an office environment and you have the whatever your hours are, it's a bit easier to separate that. When you're working from home, it's harder to do that. And I know, like, back in the days when I had an office, I like to be the first one there and start making the coffee, and then they complain I make it too strong and I'm going to melt spoons and all that. I'm like, well, you get here earlier then. But I also like to be the last one out. And there are days where you're just like, get the hell out of here so I can go home, because I always wanted to be the last one out, right? And but at least there was a break, and you'd leave and you'd go home. And here, it's that's where the discipline comes in, is to not cheat, is to actually build that resiliency. So and like, trust me, there's times I sneak in here, of course, to send an email and stuff. Like, I check like you do once or twice a night. I just try not to check every 30 seconds, bing, 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 bing. Like, I shut off the alerts for email and Slack on my watch, because I do not need that binging all the time, right?
Yeah, I'll even leave the phone in a different room sometimes.
I do that, but I guarantee you this, I've the second I do that, and it's like, oh, suddenly my dad phoned twice, and then my mother-in-law's texted me, and then the neighbor has asked 4 times if we have an egg, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, just gotta carry it.
See, that's what happens to me, right? I'll try to avoid work, and I'm also avoiding life at the same time.
Yeah, that's the one that always gets me. What I do is I try and avoid looking at email and Slack, but I just feel so guilty when I left, and they were like, oh no, they needed that 2 hours ago, and I had my phone laying over there and charging, and shut, of course, all that stuff off of my watch, so it doesn't. A good thing I got this watch that bings for everything, and then I shut it all off. So
yeah. All right. So you mentioned like 70-80 hours. I'm like going, I've always been a proponent, because I was the 70, 80, $100 guy, a week guy.
Yeah.
But then I realized, I'm really not getting better results because I do that. A lot of times it's just, I'm just doing busy work. So am I going, I think results count, not effort. It's kind of the way I look at it now. And what I mean by effort is, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it takes, and I have the same philosophy with my employees. I don't care if it takes you 1 hour or 10 hours. It's the result. This is what I want done. Yeah. So if you can get it done in 2 hours and you take a 2-hour break, well, fine.
Yeah. Well, and
let's move on to the next thing.
And I totally agree with that. It never works for me to actually take time pretty much ever. But I've got this giant to-do list, and I've got my calendar, and I've got to fit all the to-dos in between all the meetings that seem to creep up all the time. But when I know, I'm like, I've got a hard line. It's kind of a mushy line, because I don't really have a time at the end of the day. And like, sometimes it goes later, what time is dinner? I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 9. Like, I don't know, it's whatever. But I do try it. Like, it forces me to make sure the stuff that has to get done, I just get it done. And it makes me more efficient. And I'm convinced that any of these guys that are doing 78 hours a week, I would say, you know what, I'm doing more than them. Like, because I'm like you said, I'm getting results. It's effective. It's getting done. And the side benefit is I got my evening and weekends for the most part, to enjoy life so that I can fire it up again Monday morning and get going again.
All right. So that's interesting. So kind of walk me through a typical day. And then maybe you can say, contrast it to what maybe you used to do if it was wrong, or it wasn't as good as what you've got. How did you fine tune it to where you're happy with it right now?
I think one of the biggest things, like I said, I took too many things on, because the other thing I was, like I said, I was doing my master's, I was teaching, I was, full-time business. I was actually on a couple of boards at the same time. I think I was on Alberta New Media and Graphic Designers of Canada. Like, I was just ridiculous, right? I literally quit a bunch of that stuff and, finished my master's up and everything, and just went, you know what? I'm just working. Like, my business is what's most important, especially dry room as a startup like we are. It's harder than what we were doing back then. So that's a big part of it is actually focus, and it's not like, oh, I've got a spare minute, let me fill it with stuff. It's the opposite of, I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to be effective at what the thing that I'm doing. So that's a really big part of it, is just not trying to fill every minute with something that's kind of business related or work related.
Well, what's funny is that, and I think you said it last week on the podcast, but 2 years ago, I was at a conference and was given a book called The Year of Yes, right? It was just like going, hey, feel free to say yes. Feel free to do things like this. I mean, to say yes to people. But I think last week you said, no, this is the year of no.
Yeah.
I got to learn to say no to people. Maybe I said yes too much.
I totally agree with that. That early in my career, I said yes to everything. And one of the most, I think, valuable, skills or whatever I have now is the ability to say no. And I don't even think about it anymore. Where I used to maybe feel guilty about saying no, now it's like, no, get it? Like, no worry. No, I got no problem saying no. And because I understand, like, I've prioritized, but I prioritize what it is during the day that I can get done, but I've also prioritized the kind of the rest of my life, right? And what I do on those off hours. And that makes a really big difference.
All right. So Aaron, what are you doing during your off hours? What do you do?
Oh, well, just
I'm letting the listeners know Blaine a little bit better, right? What does Blaine do when he's not working, building companies?
Yeah, like yeah, I don't. It's one of those things where I don't even like sharing stuff like that. It's so funny when you see like all of our team is always like, like, we do this and I do that, and it's like Blaine is like, yeah, I work and then screw you. Okay. But there are things that I do, and one of the things that I'm at, this is one of the things my wife and I love to do is we bike a lot. Mm-hmm. And when we bike a lot, but we don't have.
You got those fancy electric bikes. Right?
In Edmonton, we have the electric bikes, and those things are another topic. Those things are so bloody amazing. They're so much fun. But I'll tell you how we bike, and we bike a long way. But we're not geared up. We don't do road biking because I don't want to be in a road with a bunch of knuckleheads in cars. We go down. We know all the back roads and the bike paths and everything, and we always have a destination. And speaking of which, we have a new destination in downtown Scottsdale. We'll bike to, and trying to think of what it'd be in miles. Our bike on a Sunday is like, I don't know, like 15 miles. I don't know if I can do the kilometers to miles conversion quite right. No, it'd be 25 or 30 actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say 15 is not a long bike ride.
No, I think no, it'd be like more like the 25 to 30 sort of thing. But what we found, we always bike to a destination. We bike to a place called, Cornish Pasty. We found just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And they do something that's like a giant pita pocket called, and I'm telling you guys, because if you're in Scottsdale or Phoenix, you got to try this place. And we this place we like to go to was already full, and we walked by, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God. And there's this open bar and this nice big patio. And then they have like just terrific beer menu. And then these unbelievably delicious pita pocket type things. That's all I can compare it to, right?
Yeah.
So I like to do that. I like to do our bike. That's one of the things that we'll do on the weekend. But what I do want to add to that is I used to it, and I'm kicking myself because I should be doing this more. A couple of years ago, I got into a groove where I blocked off 45 minutes in the afternoon to go for a bike. And I just blocked it off my calendar, and then I just worked later. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I miss doing that. But what I found is I would just stand up, hop my bike, go, and I would just hammer through 45 minute ride. But I got to tell you, the interesting thing was, it doesn't matter what I was sort of dealing with in the day. And I would sometimes have these big sort of problems I'm dealing with. And I get on that bike, and I'll tell you, about 15 minutes in, and I'm not even paying attention. I'm just riding my bike, and the answer pops in my head. Mm-hmm. And it happens so many times that I realized that is an incredibly valuable business tactic. As soon as you're doing something like that and your subconscious takes over, it's amazing how it comes up with an answer.
Yeah, that happens time and time again. It's like you get unstuck.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the feeling. It's like, if I just let it go, if I set it aside for a second because I can't figure it out, the minute I just kind of let it go, it pops in my mind.
Pops in your head. And it's a great, and I don't for me, it's biking. For other people, it can be whatever it is, but you get that distance from business, and those answers can pop in your head. And I think that's the thing for not just biking, but like other things you're doing, if it literally is really apart from business, I think your subconscious works in the background. And after you get proof a few times that you found the answer somehow, that your subconscious figured it out, that also helps you go, it's worth that time to take a break because it moved my business forward.
I mean, there's so much evidence of that. I mean, I don't know how many times in the middle of the night I've woke up. I'm like, oh shit, that's what I should do.
Yeah.
Right. It's something that I struggled with for maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And just maybe when my body and my mind relaxed enough, there it was.
It pops in. It pops in. And it's not an edge case. It happens a lot, and enough for me to believe in it that, that actually, if I'm trying to solve a problem, get away from the problem, and the answer is going to probably pop up.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. So, I mean, so for me, cause it's not fair for me to put you on the spot and not tell you what I like to do. Right. But we travel, right? We like to get out, right? Yeah. Even though I just bought a house, love being here. This is where I'm at when I'm not traveling, because I don't really want to go anywhere else. I don't have to go downtown. I don't have to go over to restaurants or whatever. I've got everything I need here. But we love events, right? Just like, I mean, I don't know what it is, but I mean, I'll go to an event, like going to the golf tournament there on Saturday.
Yeah,
we're going to come back on Monday, and Tuesday go to the rodeo here.
Nice.
And a concert, right? So, I mean, that's what I'm going, that's how I want to spend my time, is like out. There's an event, we're part of something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if I just need some alone quality time, I've got a shop where, I've got everything but a lathe, and I just need a lathe, but I do a lot of just wood projects. I love to craft something with wood, and there's something about that that's so radically different than what I do every day. Yeah, building software or teaching or speaking or doing this, that it's just me, my hands, and the wood, and I might have some music on, and that's it. Yeah, right? And it's such well, it gives me that break, maybe like your bike does.
And it's and I've probably told you this too, like I'll share, I love making stuff too. So like in the summers in Edmonton, I've got a shop that, like, I overbuilt this shop. It's ridiculous how what I built. I got 2 workbenches that you could almost have to have a crane to move. But I started out making skateboards. So I still make some skateboards, but what I found, they're so big, and then there's so much you can do with big long boards. So during COVID, it got too cold and I couldn't laminate in my garage. So I bought a whole bunch of equipment and started making knives. So that's another thing. But if I can make something, I'm all in. And so down here in Arizona, it's a little bit trickier. I don't have a shop down here. So I started like tying flies and stuff, because I do some fly fishing. just because, again, it's the exact same thing. Exact same thing that you're talking about is if I'm making something and it's not designing something as much. The design part is the tricky part because it feels like work because I've done design forever.
Right.
It's the crafting part, the building, the making it, that just relaxes me. It takes my brain out. I have to concentrate on something, but I don't have to like do this massive mental work. And so I'm the same way. I like to build stuff. So I'd like to see what some of the stuff you build, because I just love building stuff.
It's an amazing experience. It's like going, and I get immersed into it. And because I think I'm probably slightly addictive personality,
yeah,
I can easily fall into too many hours in that workshop.
Oh, it's easy to do. It's easy to do. I throw on these earphones and they're noise canceling, so I can't hear the grinders as much and that. And I can sit out there for, you know, what gets me to stop is also my back starts to ache from standing on the concrete. Like, oh, I've been here a while. I better go inside.
At my bench, I got I got that foam pad. You know, those things they give to like cashiers at the grocery store that have to stand all day.
I should get one of those. That's a hell of an idea. So what kind of stuff do you make?
All right. So I've built things as big as a 10 by 12. It's like 12-foot high, 10-foot wide bookshelf in 3 sections with a bench in the middle.
Nice.
I built this kind of stand for, all right. So father-in-law saw it in Aruba, where they had these tables stuck into the sand. They were like, you know, mounted in the sand, but they came up and they were, theirs were square with holes in it, like 2 levels where you could set your drink, because it's so windy on the beach in Aruba. Yeah. It would take your plastic cup and throw it all over the place. Yeah. So it just kind of, there's like cup holders, but on a table. Yeah. So the last thing I built was that for him, right? Which was I built one for his backyard, but I made it round and and he thought it was the coolest thing because he loves it in Aruba. Yeah. And then I just did an accent wall. So think about a wall like that, but you've seen it where it looks like it's boxes. Yep. So I took a wall in our bedroom and I built an accent wall in there where it's kind of more, more gives it a more designer custom type look. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I haven't done a lot of the bigger things like that. I've made like I said, skateboards, and I laminate them and I design them and all that, and airbrush them and all that kind of stuff. I haven't done a lot of I've done some rental stuff, but I never built big stuff like that. That would be kind of an interesting challenge because I don't really know that much about it. What's funny is I've done a couple little things, right? I mean, just here and there, and father-in-law, he always thinks that I should make a business out of it. Like, well, how much does that cost? How much could we charge? I could probably get $200 for that. I said, yeah, but that's a job. I don't want a job. It's kind of funny because I actually think at times that my dad actually thinks that my making knives is what I do. I spend all day building stuff, but I don't think he just doesn't really understand SaaS and what we're doing with software and all this kind of stuff and how, what we're trying to accomplish. But he knows I make knives and he really likes them. So it's funny because I think sometimes he thinks that'd be better use of my time, that's making knives. But it's just the diversion. The other thing we do down here, especially down in Arizona. So wait a second, are you you don't have a forge, right? Are you just no? I didn't want to. I tried that once, but I didn't want to burn the house down. But what I do is so I ordered a chunk of stainless steel. Okay. And I'll design the knife and I'll do a rough cut on it, and then I send it away for heat treating. And so someone else does the heat treat, and they do a nitro dip, whatever it is, and send it back. And then I do then I finish the knife and the shape. So I use a high-end stainless steel, and then I'll do so I finish all the grinds and the bells and everything, and then I'll polish it up. Then I'll do the handles. So I'll do I really like the hardwood, so I'll use ironwood or cocobolo or something interesting to make these handles. And that's been super fun because I've always I've loved knives since I was a kid. So to be able to suddenly make them was really cool. I haven't figured out how to make super cool folding knives because that's a totally different piece. But I've always got one on me. So this here is a Chavez
like it's a cool like titanium like a M590 blade, and it's a Chavez, Ramon Chavez designed it. So I'm kind of a total knife nerd.
Did that have a skull on the belt clip?
Oh yeah, super unique to Chavez knives. And
I didn't know that. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, so I've always got one on me, and this is a big one. This is a bigger knife, but I've just been a bit of a nerd on that stuff, but you got to find your thing. Like the other thing we do down here is we'll go to the archery range on the weekends, and we'll go walk through the course. Like it's like a golf course almost. You walk through the course and shoot at targets, and I love that. And I've done that since I was a kid. And so my wife and I'll go out and we'll, like one of the days on the weekend, we'll usually go on and walk through. And it's just a really relaxing. It's like a hike. It gets us walking for, a mile or two, and just really enjoyable. But it's I think it's so important to have, it doesn't matter what it is. You have to have something, some sort of hobby or some sort of something that you can enjoy, because if you sit still for a minute, it's going to start creeping into your brain. So you have to have something that you do that you enjoy, that'll take you away from that.
Yeah. All right. So the biggest thing I've learned today, though, right? The biggest thing I'm learning is that you can become so obsessed and overworked and all that it actually blocks your productivity. Right. It actually it retards it. It makes it makes it less.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And that one break, that one thing you do, I don't care if it's, maybe watching a TV show that's mind numbing, sitting out in the backyard, woodworking, building knives, riding a bike, whatever it is, it breaks the cycle. It breaks, that pattern where you're stuck. Right. Yeah, and I think that break, that work-life balance really actually promotes productivity, because it gives you, well, I don't know how to explain what happens in the brain, but it actually helps.
It makes you
yeah. Help me out here. What am I trying to say?
I think it's very much feels like work smart, not hard.
Yeah.
It's like a shortcut. You come up with answers faster. Yeah. So it's not just being more productive. Like it's like you said, it's the end goal. I think you reach those end goals, you're much more effective. It's just, if you haven't tried it, try it. Find a way to distance yourself, and it'll pay enormous dividends. And you'll find out you can work way less and be more effective. You'll be further ahead by enjoying life and working less.
That is so true. That is so true. So episode number 27, my man, we just did it. And in 2 days, I get to put my arms around you and say, Blaine, you're my buddy. You're my man.
I'm don't crush me, because I have a feeling you're a lot bigger than I am. You look tall.
I hope that's not true. I hope we're the same size.
It's no, well, I'm not that short, but anyway, it's no, and it's exactly, it's that event. You get to go to an event, and that's just living exactly what you believe and what you preach. So
I only because you said that, I would have ended right here, but only because you said, I hope you're not bigger than me or whatever. Here's a funny story that happened to me while I was shopping. I see these suits at a place called Suit Supply, and I go in, I'm like, oh man, that really looks nice. I just like the way that this person looks in those clothes. And I go in there, I'm like going, I don't know if any of this stuff's going to fit me. I'm like, is this a kid's store? What is this? And so the person comes up to help me, and they go, well, we have this size. I'm like going, well, do you have anything for husky kids? your extra large isn't going to fit me.
Yeah, I've like average. I go in medium or large, fits every time. So it's yeah. Anyway, it's I'm looking forward to seeing you, and I think you're really going to enjoy the Scottsdale Open, which is Saturday's a different day, man. It'll be interesting, and never a shortage of stuff to look at. It's just a giant spectacle. So, well,
if anything, we'll have something to talk about next week on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll change topics. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So, hey, you've been listening to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. I'm Mike Mylan, and that is Blaine Birch. And Blaine, any final words?
No, looking forward to seeing you, man. It's going to be fun.
All right. We'll see you next week.